Hello everyone and welcome to another incredible game from round 2 of this year's US Chess Championship. We're going to show at least 2 games from this round, maybe 3, and it's Robson versus Wesley. So like we already said that Fabi is a 3 times US Chess Champion and he won it 3 times in a row in 2024, 2023 and 2022. Wesley on the other hand won it in 2021 and 2020, but also in 2017. So he's also a 3 times US Chess Champion, just not in a row. Hikaru, for example, he's a 5 times U.S. chess champion, starting all the way from 2005. He wins it like every 3 or 4 years. And in comparison, Bobby Fischer was an 8-time world champion, but Bobby Fischer played only 8 times, so he won 100% of the U.S. chess championship that he participated in. So just to put some perspective there. But yeah, obviously it's very competitive and everyone wants to win. So let's check it out. Ray with white opens with pawn to d4. We have knight to f6 by Wesley, c4, e6, and knight to f3, not inviting the Nimzo Indian with knight c3. And you could still go bishop to b4. The Bogo Indian is also a very nice opening. I myself played it, at times, mostly at maybe used as a surprise in a tournament where everyone knows what you play. So not many people are prepared for it. So depending on your level, it could be a nice surprise. But here everyone knows everything. So just d5, the standard Queen's Gambit declined. We have knight to c3, d captures on c4, and pawn to e4. We have pawn to b5, and now pawn to e5. We go into the exact same line we covered 2 videos ago in the game. Matthias Blubam won very nicely. It was a pretty wild game. It was the Germany versus Croatia clash. Knight to d5 and knight captures on b5 against Leon Radić. We have knight to b6 and now bishop to e3. Already a surprise from Ray Robson, because everyone plays bishop to e2 here. It's almost mandatory. Bishop to e3. Only a handful of games in top-level chess with this idea, as you really want a castle, so bishop to e2 does make sense. But okay, we don't have bishop to b4, probably what Ray prepared, even though it's hard to really pinpoint if this is preparation, because this is the first move where Ray actually spent some time, so maybe it's an over-the-board decision. But okay, knight to c6, we have pawn to a3, queen to d7, and knight back to c3. The knight on b5 could be a little bit vulnerable. Knight c3, bishop to b7, we have queen c2, and bishop to e7. Okay, preparing the castle, rook to d1, and knight to a5. Following the game Yuri Kuzubov versus Nodirbek Abdusattorov that was played in 2022 in the Turkish Super League, but there after bishop to e2, Nodirbek played rook to b8 and he lost that game. Here on the other hand, Wesley plays pawn to f5, which is the top move recommended by the engine, and it is now as of move 13 that we have a completely new game. We have e captures on f6, en passant, g captures, same as in the game, not the same position, but the same theme, and not allowing the knight to g5 or e5, so you capture with the g pawn instead of the bishop, like in the Blubam versus Radić game. Castles, and now rook to g8, claiming the semi-open g file, and the Wesley has to like his position a lot here. It's very double-edged, but also carries great attacking potential. And here, Ray should just say, okay, enough with the nonsense on the g file and play pawn to g3. But he played knight to e4, and now Wesley, all of a sudden, from a position where you're expecting some sort of a brilliant attack, goes queen a4 and just offers a queen trade. And he says, all right, I'm going to play against your weak b2 pawn. I already have a pawn on c4 that's very nicely defended, and I'm going to advance it to victory. And you should decline with queen b1, but Ray plays queen captures on a4. Knight captures on a4, and now knight to c5, where Wesley plays knight captures on c5, which is very odd, as after capturing with the bishop and after d captures bishop d5, you defend this sufficiently. b2 pawn is already hanging. b3 or b4 is never possible because you control b3 3 times, and you're just going to play rook b8, win the b pawn, and advance the past c pawn. So maybe Wesley he certainly thought about this. Maybe he decided that it was nice, but not enough to win, so he doesn't want to force matters. So he plays knight captures on c5. But okay, I mean, who are we to argue with the great Wesley? So d captures on c5, and now rook to b8. We have pawn to g3, so you can move the knight and not to be worried about that g2 pawn. and the bishop to d5, nicely defending the c4 pawn, and now ready to capture on b2. Knight to d4, and rook captures on b2. We have bishop to h5 check, rook to g6. Wesley even trying to give up an exchange because that bishop is doing a lot and the rook really not all that much. And should Ray capture, yeah, this is great for Wesley. He has the very strong center, he has the passed c pawn, and it's going to start marching forward fairly soon. So after rook g6, we have rook to b1. Rook trade captures, and now knight to b3. Knight captures on b3, c captures on b3, the pawn being defended here. And now you might be thinking, okay, now we captured the rook, but no. Probably at this point, just because Wesley wants Ray to capture it, he just doesn't. But also, it's better not to, because the passed b pawn is much too dangerous. You have to capture it. And there's no way for Wesley to defend it. So he goes king d7. Bishop captures on b3, bishop captures, rook captures, and now king to c6, preparing to capture on c5. For the moment, there is no way to capture it. Rook b4, and now if you capture, then rook c4 wins material, so you can play that. You can defend with rook g5, but then you have to give up an exchange, and white will be just winning here. So after rook b4, we have pawn to a5, rook to a4, and king b5. Rook to h4, going after h7, rook g7, and pawn to a4 with check. We have king to c6 and the bishop to d2, going after the a5 pawn. Bishop captures on c5. We have rook to f4. You could also just capture on a5, but Ray first decides to go after the f6 pawn. Rook f7 defending, and now bishop captures on a5. We have king d5 by Wesley, centralizing the king nicely, and well, there are many moves you could play here. Rook f3, bishop goes back, then you advance the a pawn. Ray goes for rook to g4. He knows that the passed c pawn will start marching forward, and he wants to be ready for that. He wants to go rook g8, rook c8, and also have some potential of checking the black king from behind. Bishop to d4 by Wesley, now making room for that pass pawn to start marching forward, and you create a wall here, so the rook really has to go from behind, and that's exactly what Ray does. Rook g8, pawn to c5, and now bishop to b6, going after the c5 pawn. And Wesley plays pawn to e5. Here, Wesley should stop checks with rook to d7, but he's also playing against Ray's clock. Pawn to e5, and now is the sort of a last opportunity for Ray to go king to f1, because the king has to go get into the game. And also you should unpin so you can advance the df pawn. But rook to d8 check, king to e4, and now rook to c8, getting ready to capture on c5. But now Wesley is completely winning. But in order to see this, you really have to calculate it all the way to the very end. So try to do it. Feel free to pause the video and calculate until the very end, until victory is assured, while I give you a couple of seconds. The incredible victory, believe it or not, is king to f3. And you're probably wondering why this. Well, you're threatening bishop captures on f2, which just creates another pass pawn, and you're completely winning. The problem is you can stop this by playing bishop captures on c5. So bishop captures on c5 now stops bishop captures on f2, and now the actual winning move, and that is rook b7. Now you're threatening checkmate. The only way to stop this is to make room for your king, and now look at this. Rook to b1 check, king h2, and the rook to c1 wins material. Simple as that. Bishop captures on d4, rook captures on c8, and now bishop to b6, preparing a5, a6, and a7. But now after rook to c1, g4, we have rook to a1 going after the pawn. And now, while you're probably expecting a5, bishop to d8 was played. a5 doesn't really do anything, just e4, and you're in zugzwang. There's no move that you can make here. So bishop to d8 was played, and now rook to a2, and he was in this position on move 47 that Ray Robson resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Really just a remarkable position. Point is that if you now go back bishop to b6, then you can just capture on a4, so that's pretty self-explanatory. And if you go, well, whatever, you could play pawn to a5, but then rook captures on f2, or if you go bishop captures on f6, then again rook captures on f2, and this just creates another pass pawn, like king g1. You can go pawn to e4, and we can even play it out: a5, e3, a6, rook to g2 check, king f1, e1, e2 check, king to e1. You you can give a check. Now the queen comes into the game, and the white king gets checkmated fairly quickly from this point on. So yeah, it was a great fight, great battle by both of them. Ray surprised them very nicely with that bishop to e3 move in the opening, but Wesley prevailed, and well, as a 3 times US champion, we are expecting, of course, Wesley to win. Not just this, maybe even the whole thing. We'll see how it goes, as like I said, it's a very, very competitive tournament. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed. A big congratulations to Wesley. Like I said, I will cover at least one more game. I'm pretty sure you guys know which one I'm talking about. I would like to thank Rokawa, John Anderson, Ulrich Thini, Gerard St. Pierre, and The Word Weird for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And if you also want to surprise your opponents like Ray did to Wesley here, download Lotus Chess. First link in the description below, and well, just you know, take your game to the next level, as they say. See you soon.